think so. YouTube changed something on the live stream. It's kind of hard to tell. Now it's showing a black screen. Is it live yet? We'll see. I'm going to assume... Oh, yeah, there I am. All right, so I'm going to assume we're live. All right. Here we go. All right, excellent. Welcome. We got some people in the comments already. Vincent, welcome, my friend. Eterna, welcome back. All right, so today should be relatively... All right, let's see. Am I just... Oh, no. Okay. YouTube's got me all messed up here looking at the screen. All right, awesome. So I'm going to wave. Am I seeing? Okay, good. All right, so I am live. Good. All right, wonderful. Can people hear me? Can you hear the piano? I guess that was a horn, technically. Can we hear that? Hey, welcome, Kaya Radio. Welcome, my friend. First stream you can be on. Awesome. We're going to have fun. Today's going to be a pretty short one. Only got 3 submissions this time around. I think this is the new lowest submissions that we've had. Not a problem. It's on me. I didn't really advertise it. And then I got sick last week. But we've got some good submissions. We're going to listen to them. We're going to see what we can do with feedback. And yeah. Good. Thank you, Eterna. Thank you. So you can hear me. So let's start off with Vincent, who's in the comment section. All right, our questions. Could you talk about finalizing your song to the right decibel level? All right. Removing volume spikes or toning down the low end to lower the actual versus perceived volume is still a bit abstract to me. Since I'm working on a game myself right now, I'd like to have the perceived volume of the songs be consistent. Additional notes. I made this little tune as part of a game jam within an hour's time. Ooh, nice. Enjoy it. It's a fun one. Let's listen to it and see what we can talk about with volume and mixing and whatnot. Beautiful. All right. So, great piece. And for an hour's time, that's really, really good. So before we get to talking about like mixing with the volume and stuff, there's one thing I'd like to bring up. Something you did very, very well, but could have been done and applied to multiple levels. All right. So in your foreground, all right, you did a fantastic job of using timbre to keep your foreground interesting. You had a very simple idea, very simple melody that was repeating and alternating here and there. But it moved around. Started off in like, I don't know, like the clarinet or something. Then it moved over to the strings and it moved over here and it moved over there. You were moving the melody around to different instruments every phrase or so. That works really, really well to keep a simple idea from getting boring. That's something John Williams does all the time. If you ever listen to some of his soundtracks for like Jurassic Park, Star Wars, Harry Potter, they have very simple, repetitive ideas, but they swap around. In fact, I'm going to write this stuff down. All right. So we're going to say notes. Using timbre to keep simple ideas interesting. All right. This is something John Williams does all the time. All right. John Williams uses timbre and texture to keep simple ideas interesting. So timbre, being John Williams, will take a very simple motif and he will throw it around all over the orchestra. Over here, we have it in like the strings. Over there, the French horn takes over. Then it goes over to the woodwinds and then it's back to the strings. Now the piano plays it. He does where he'll bounce a simple idea all over the orchestra. This is especially a very good example of this is Hedwig's theme from Harry Potter, the Sorcerer's Stone. All right. It's an idea where it takes a small little melody and bounces it all over the orchestra. And even though it's a repetitive idea, it remains interesting because it's going all over. We hear it portrayed with different personalities across the orchestra. He will also use texture, which is the number and types of layers in your music. So maybe he has melody and chords played for the first phrase, but then he brings in a counter melody for the second phrase. Then maybe the third time he brings it around, there's an ostinato, repeating rhythmic idea in the background before coming back to just the melody. He uses the number and type of layers to, again, repeat the same melody. It's the same phrase, same motif, gets repeated over and over and over again, but it stays interesting because the arrangement changes. He changes the timbre and he changes the texture. This is something Hans Zimmer does all the time. John Powell, Howard Shore. They will take simple ideas, but they will keep them interesting. And you did a fantastic job of this, Vincent, with your foreground. The background is very, very repetitive. Let's listen to a couple seconds again. You have what sounds like pizzicato strings. Then the clarinet comes in on the melody. Now the flute's in. But the strings are still there. And if we fast forward, the strings are still going. Nothing wrong with that, but you want to make sure, if you want to make the most mileage out of a very simple idea, you did a fantastic job of bouncing the melody around. The background can bounce around too. You can change that around. You could have the piano come in. You can have the woodwinds take over for the strings. It doesn't have to happen as frequently as the melody in the foreground because it doesn't need to demand as much interest as the melody. The melody should be the most interesting layer. But if you want to avoid getting boring, that's something I would focus on, is treat your background as part of the arrangement. So you might hear these terms used frequently. All right. You hear foreground, you hear background, and you hear midground. All right. The foreground are the layers / ideas your audience should pay attention to. All right. We'll say most important. All right. So as the composer, you're writing, this is the layer you want your melody to stick out. 9 times out of 10, it's the melody. And then the 10th time where it's not the melody is usually because there isn't a melody and you have a different idea, like an ostinato. All right. The background, all the supportive layers responsible for giving the foreground its personality. All right. So your melody might have a particular like emotional personality. It might have a specific quirky personality. Whatever it is that gives it that personality, that's the background. All right. That could be bass line. That could be chords, harmony. It could be ostinato. It could be like the ostinato. Oh, hey. Why? Turn off all notifications for Discord. Sorry. I shouldn't be having that pop up during a stream. But you can have like not because, dang it, ADHD. So now the Discord thing, like through my, a notification pops up. That's why I don't like having notifications on during streams. Because when a notification pops up, with my ADHD, it kind of like throws me off. What was I saying? Background. Yes. So the pizzicato strings do a very good job. They've got pizzicato, plucky little bouncy quality. They give a fun personality to the melody. They're very important. The midground is additional layers that don't necessarily contribute to the primary personality of the foreground. So if you had like ear candy, like little runs here and there, they can contribute to the personality of the music and do a lot of stuff, but they're not as important as the foreground, and they aren't responsible for the personality of the foreground. If you were to take the chords out of a piece of music, that removes a lot of context, a lot of support from the melody. And so it would shift the personality and quality of the foreground. If you had some runs or some harp runs or some like just little embellishments, a cymbal crash here or there, that doesn't really contribute to the personality, but still contributes to the music, that's what you could consider midground. Or a counter melody that kind of stands out on its own, that could be midground. Stuff like that. This isn't a one-shop stop kind of way to think about it. There are other ways to think about this, but this is what I have found personally to be the most reliable. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because, again, going back to that idea of the chords getting a little repetitive, the arrangement getting a little repetitive. You did a fantastic job of moving the timbre and texture around for the melody, but you want to make sure as you arrange, each of these layers need to be treated as being important. The foreground, yes, the foreground needs to be arranged because obviously it's the foreground, it's the most important, but the background needs to be arranged too. You're not going to want to just plug and chug and go, all right, I put in the chords, that's good enough. You want to make them interesting in and of their own right. You don't want to pull focus away from the melody, but that is one thing you could instantly do for this arrangement to just instantly make it more lush. Not well, lush is a bad word. To instantly give it more personality and keep it from getting too repetitive, especially in video game music. If you listen to a lot of the Nintendo, like the old school Nintendo soundtracks, you'll notice that this idea comes up a lot of changing timbres and textures very frequently, so that when it loops and repeats over and over and over again, it's not getting too boring or repetitive, right? Let's see here. Wonderful. Let's see here some things. Whimsical. So people are loving it. Hey, if I'm able to make it. Hey, welcome, Monster Explorers. Oh, also, where can I find this music submission page? The community post said it would be in the description. There was no description. Oh, is that what happened? I was wondering why there were fewer. Let me see this. I was wondering why there were so few submissions this time. No, yeah, there's a description. Yeah, see right here. Last year in the monthly. Yeah, okay, I was going to say. No. Yeah. It's right in the description of the post. View post on YouTube. So description of the feedback. Feedback, it's you email it to me or send it to me in Instagram. There's not a specific like form to put it in. As long as you get your music to me and follow the important guidelines, you're good. All right. The next one you can submit to will be June 27th. So mark your calendars. All right. Submit. They will be open the week ahead of time. You can submit music before then. Let's see here. Monster Explorers, Sky Radio. Yeah, that's true. My bad. Didn't mean to offset you. No worries. No worries. Yes, I do have a Discord. Awesome. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Perfect. So now that's nice little. So that's the first feedback I would offer, Vincent. But you also asked about removing volume spikes or kind of just finalizing to the right decibel level. All right. So this comes to mixing and mastering. There's a lot of stuff that comes down to this. But what sounds to me is like you might need help with compression. So let's get this little idea. What's this idea? I think this is from my shorts on Instagram about. All right, so yeah, this was my mix about a little short I made about reverb. All right, so we've got a little idea here. Compression. Let's talk about compression real quick. Dynamics. Compression. Well, let's just pull it up on here. Let me move this over here. Compression is a tool that has two purposes. One is to how do I put so one term is to increase the volume, general volume of your music, and two, to even out the volume of your music. All right, so it has these two little purposes. All right, and I'll explain why it has both purposes. All right, so all compressors, they're all going to be a little different, but they all have at least a few little points. They have a threshold. They have a, we're going to say the actual compression. And then they have a makeup. All right, so the threshold equals the max, also compression ratio. Let's look at that. All right, maximum volume. All right, well, not technically maximum volume, or the level, we'll say the level at which compression is applied. All right, so let's see here real quick. Let's demonstrate. All right, so right now the top volume for these horns is about minus 9.2 decibels. So let's say we've got a whole bunch of instruments going on right now. They're all causing a little bit of volume topping out. So what we want to say is we want our threshold to be a little under the 9.2. Let's say minus 11. All right. That means any volume that goes above minus 11 decibels is about to get chopped. All right? Look at that. Any volume or track that goes that goes beyond the threshold will get reduced. All right? So if the threshold is minus 11 decibels, and we've got our loudest at about minus 9.2, then yeah, we are about 2 decibels louder than the threshold. So those 2 decibels are about to get chopped. All right? The next little thing in threshold compression, and I'll probably... it's been a very long time since I've had to teach compression, so I'm stumbling over myself. It's not as natural to me as like explaining harmony. So I'll probably make some videos about it after I can think it through and find the way I want to approach this. But compression ratio is how much the peak will get chopped up. All right, so our peak goes past the threshold, 2 decibels too much. That amount is going to get chopped up by our ratio. So if you have a 2-to-1 ratio, that means those 2 decibels are going to get chopped into 1/2. So if we watch, input is minus, okay, so actually I was looking at input. Input is minus 6, threshold is minus 11, output we have minus 9. So now minus 6, so we've actually quite a bit louder than minus 11. But watch what happens to the output. Our loudest is minus 6, our output is minus 9.2. Oops, I've got the makeup gain a little high. Let's turn that down. Let's have the makeup gain. We'll talk to that a bit. All right. Minus 7. So then we've got minus 5 decibels, minus 11. What's going on here? Why is this not getting chopped up? Let's lower the threshold, see what happens. Okay, so maybe I just didn't reset it. Let's do minus 11. Reset this. Our input is minus 5.4. And our output is going to be minus 7.1. All right? The higher we bring this ratio, the bigger it's going to get chopped off until this output becomes much, much closer to the threshold. It's getting closer because the ratio is, again, now whatever decibels go past our threshold, that peak that goes a bit higher is going to get chopped into 1/6. Now it'll be chopped into 1/8. And it keeps getting closer and closer to that 11 decibels. All right, so now makeup gain. So you can actually kind of see this here. You can see this peak, this little dot right here is the threshold. And this ratio depicts how much it's going to get chopped, how much it's going to be brought down. So a very high ratio, 8-to-1, is going to make sure that all of your sounds stay very, very close to your threshold. A very loose threshold is going to just have, it's going to take off a little bit, but it's not going to chop off too much, all right? Generally speaking, orchestral music, you want a very kind of smaller level of a smaller ratio, 2-to-1. You don't want to chop off a huge amount because the dynamic variability is a huge part of it. So the threshold is the level at which the compression is applied. So anything that goes louder than minus 11 decibels is going to get chopped up by the ratio. So however much goes past that 11 decibels, that extra, not the whole thing, just that extra bit will get chopped up by the ratio that you give it. All right? So then the makeup gain says it increases the final dynamics by X amount. All right, so say makeup gain, I want to say, all right, it goes past 11 decibels. I'm going to chop anything that goes past that by this much. And then I'm going to increase the whole volume of the entire track by 6 decibels. The reason why is this helps with the volume spikes. Not everything in your tracks. If you have multiple instruments, say like the French horns, trumpets, and trombones all spike past your threshold, but none of the woodwinds do. Those brass instruments are going to get chopped down real quick, and then once they get chopped down, it bridges the gap between the two a little bit, and then everybody is going to increase their volume. So that it bridges the gap between the loudest and the softest instruments, and then it increases the volume of everybody together. Am I just confusing you? I am not as... it's been a long time since I've had to explain compressors, and explaining plugins doesn't come as natural to me as explaining music theory. Does that make sense at all? But you have inspired me. I'll make a video where I think this through a little bit. I come up with the order of things I want to talk about, how it breaks down. But I hope, basically, to kind of summarize my ramblings, compression evens out the volume of your music. All right. It says, all right, here's a threshold. Here's the loudest we want. Like, here's where we're going to like chop things up a little bit. Anything that goes past this threshold is going to get chopped up. And the compression ratio says this is how much it's going to get chopped down to. So like a ratio of 2 to 1, it says whatever went past that threshold, they're going to get chopped to just like half of that amount that went past the threshold. If it's 1/3, they're going to get chopped down to 1/3 of what passed that ratio. And then the makeup says, all right, and once the loudest noises have been chopped down a little bit, the softest noises have been left alone, the whole thing sounds a little softer now, all right? And if we don't want it to sound softer, the makeup gain says, all right, make the whole thing a little bit louder so that we can all have everybody a little bit louder. Does that make sense? Carl, are we going to get classes on mixing and EQ? Eventually, once I get a little more practice in like teaching this stuff, I will be doing some videos. Let's see here. How many pieces were submitted? Monster Explorer, just 3 this time around. I did not advertise it very much because I was sick last week. Mixing is hard. I'm kind of getting it. Mixing is hard. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to make some videos about mixing. All right. I know I haven't really done much. I've mostly just tackled it in live streams. I'll do videos about mixing and hopefully tag it. It does make sense. I'm a bit more confused about the perceived volume, though. Quick example. All right, so perceived volume. Okay, so increase the general volume. So what do you mean perceived volume? Okay, let's say you have 3 instruments. Let's say you recorded 3 musicians. You recorded a string quartet. All right, example. Recording a string quartet. All right. Violin 1. Super loud. All right. Your guy had the microphone right up on his violin. All right. Violin 2 equals moderate. All right. She had the microphone set like it's a decent level. All right. Viola is also a moderate level. All right. But the cello had a baby that was sleeping. And it's super soft. All right, baby was sleeping in the next room. The player had to stay a little bit softer. It is what it is. All right, you've got to mix this real quick. You've got a lot of variability. Let's say that the violin 1 has a max output of -1 decibel. The violin 2 has a max output of -11 decibels. All right, viola has a max output of -12 decibels. And then the cello has -20. All right, that's a lot of variability. All right, decibels are just a way of measuring like volume. All right, so we need to chop this up a little bit. All right, so the threshold, we're going to put it at we'll put the threshold at 12 decibels. All right. Or -12 decibels. All right, we will put the ratio to 3 to 1. All right, violin 1 goes quite a bit louder than 12 decibels. All right, it's 11 decibels louder than 12. All right, so we're going to take that 12. And after the threshold, those 11 decibels are going to get chopped down to just 1/3 of it. So we've got the 12 decibels, -12. We got 11 decibels. So that 1/3 of 11 is about 4. So we'll say it is now, if we take -12, we've got -12 decibels. And then we add, so now we got chopped down a little bit, and now we are going to have minus 8 decibels. All right, this is our new threshold. All right, our violin 2 is not above, is a little bit above, so it's gonna be about minus 12 decibels is where it gets chopped down to. Our viola is at minus 12, so it's not gonna get hit. Cello is super soft, so it's now going to be, it's still minus 20 decibels. But the gap between our loudest and our softest is now significantly smaller. Rather than being a 20 decibel gap, it's now closer to like a 10 or 12. All right. Again, I hope this was helpful. I don't know if this is, I think I'm just confusing people more. All right. Because then makeup gain would say, all right, now we're gonna take all of these and we're gonna crank it up by say like 7 decibels. So that violin is minus, so that they all are a little bit louder. I have a song with, okay, so I hope that makes sense. Vincent, I have a song with a lot of high woodwinds that sounds really loud. Then I have a song with a lot of low strings. How do I get them to sound the same volume without breaking the legal decibel limit for streaming, for example? Okay, so this is the question about mixing or mastering technically, because you are mixing individual pieces and then mastering them to fit like an album. This is something I'll tackle in a video. All right, I feel like I'm just confusing people at this point. I do, like I said, mixing and mastering is not something I feel as talented with teaching as music theory, but I'll do some videos, all right? Because this is something that I've been needing to do. It's something that's lacking on this channel. I'll come up with I'll start drafting like a class that I can do for like the free academy on my website. Hopefully this wasn't too confusing. If it was, I apologize. Just ignore all of it. I'll have some nice videos coming out for you. Let's see here. Let's move on to our next piece, all right? So Samuel Sheridan. Samuel Sheridan, you did not submit a request. All right. Normally, requests are required for the submission, but since we didn't have a lot of submissions this time around, I figured if we can just see what we can listen to and come up with some ideas. Shall we? Very cool. Excellence, Sheridan. So, without having a specific request, I'm going to share what I think is the biggest issue with this real quick. And very well done. Beautiful piece. I think the one thing that stuck out to me was that your strings sounded a little shotgunny. All right? So by or machine gunny. All right? So by machine gunny, it means like it sounds like every note sounds very crisp and very much the same. All right, so let's create a very quick kind of ostinato. We'll just do a... All right, so here we have a very simple idea. And then we'll repeat this We'll change the C major to an A minor. Just so we have a quick idea. Why is this not moving? My keyboard's not working. There we go. And then we will repeat this a couple more times. Same basic idea, just so we have something to work with. We will do an E minor. Why is my keyboard not working? Trying to press the arrow button, and it's not working. And then we'll go back to C major. So here's our idea. All right, perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it. Sounds decent, but if you want to be picky, there's a lot we can do here. First and foremost is going to be a tool called Velocity. All right, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Samuel. I'm just going to, since you didn't have a request, I'm just going to talk about this. All right, so Velocity equates to how hard each note is played. All right, this is important because if you look down here, this is the velocity. Every single note is being played equally as hard. If we take this down, it's going to be softer. If we bring this really high, it's going to bring it back down a little bit. So this does impact volume, especially with short, crisp notes. But the issue is about realism, all right? No human musician is going to play every single note with the exact amount of force. And when you have your instruments doing this in a MIDI mockup, it can make it sound very, very animatronic right off the bat. So something you can do for Velocity to just instantly make it a little bit harder, or more humanized, you can follow several steps, all right? Downbeats get hit a little harder, all right? All right, we'll say these get hit hardest. Then strong beats get hit a little harder, get hit moderately. Weak beats get hit softer. All right, it's all relative, and obviously adjust as you see fit. All right, because obviously sometimes you're working with special accents. But right off the bat, something very simple. The downbeat is always the one beat. All right, so we're gonna take everything. We're going to de-highlight the downbeat. We're gonna bring it just down a little bit. All right, then we do strong beats next. In 4/4 time, the strong beats are beats 1 and 3. So we're going to highlight everything again. This time we're going to unhighlight our first beats, and we're going to unhighlight beats 3. We're going to bring everything else down a little bit. All right, and right off the bat, it's already going to sound like it's got a little more personality. And sometimes you're like, all right, I would like it to be a little bit louder. All right, so already more personality. Something else you can then do is apply a little bit of randomness. I'd say like between 5 to 10%. Now watch down here. Bow. Everything's a little bit random, and now it's going to sound significantly more human. And then finally, something else you can do is use expression for phrasing. All right, expression data is basically similar to track volume, all right, without going too in-depth. Expression data is used to control a little bit more of just like the straight volume of your track, and it can be used for something called phrasing. Most musicians at the beginning of a phrase will start off a little soft and then come back down and get a little soft again at the end. So if we can take expression data start off with our slowest level. We can come up a little bit. And then over here, we'll come back down again. Then we can take a smaller amount. And then we can ramp it back down again. So we get a subtle effect. So now let's listen to the difference between them. All right? We're going to listen to this modified version first, and then pay attention to how mechanical the original is going to sound in comparison. All right, listen. And then again. It's subtle. But when you have this across multiple tracks of multiple instruments, especially when you start bringing in multiple layers, like we go up. Why is my keyboard's not working? I can copy and paste, but my arrow isn't working. All right, well, I can't do it anymore, unfortunately. But you get the idea. If you would like to learn more about all of this cool stuff, check out my website, Bookshop. This one right here, the Guide to MIDI Mockups, is all about making your arrangements sound more human. Which reminds me, special little deal going on. I'm going to 2 new deals for the week. Any point of this week, if you purchase my textbook or my book on emotions, you get this one for free. The Harmonic Balance, the Guide to Balancing the Modern Orchestra. This is the book all about like how many flutes does it take to balance a trumpet? How many French horns are needed to balance a trombone? How does that change when you're using mutes? How does that change across different dynamic levels? What about the string section? Check that out. So purchase either one of these. You get this one for free. That's for the week. Composer's Roadmap. This is a new free book that I've created all about teaching yourself music, how to figure out what things you need to learn. I've got one review, very kind, of Barath. Thank you. I've gotten very nice comments about this book. It's kind of a passion project. And then Private Lessons. This is a new thing. This is temporary. All right. The custom 12-week course. All right. So this, for $1,000, you and 2 of your friends can pick any musical topic. We would have a 30-minute talk ahead of time where we discuss, all right, what skills do you want at the end of these 12 weeks? Whether you want to be able to write an orchestral arrangement, whether you want to be really good at mixing, whether you want to be able to score a film, write melodies, whatever it is you want to be able to do musically, treat it like a 12-week college course. Weekly lessons, 1 hour each. You can bring 2 friends with you. And yeah, you get every single lesson is an hour long. Each one will get fully recorded. You'll get personalized notes and assignments and feedback on your assignments. You can learn more on my website. Like I said, it's a 12-week commitment. And we would work together to create the curriculum for the class ahead of time, and then we kind of figure out. So this is new. I understand it's expensive, but it is the equivalent of like a Berklee online course, minus that of course, you don't get credits for it. But you don't get college credits for Berklee on classes anyway, unless you are enrolled with them as a college. So that is my little spiel there. Eternum, question, are there physical hard copies available for your musical storyteller and guide to MIDI mockup books? Eternum, yes, there are physical copies available for the textbook, not the MIDI mockup. So right now, it's something I need to work on. I have physical copies available of the textbook, The Musical Storyteller. To find them, they're on Amazon. Go to the link and click on this right here. I'm not going to click on it because I'm signed into Amazon. It would show you my personal address. I'd rather not do that for obvious reasons. But click this. It'll take you to Amazon. You can also just look up Storyteller Steven Berkemeyer, my name, right here. Top thing that pops up. You'll have physical copies. All right. You said this is temporary. Will it come back anytime soon? Kaya Radio. So when I say temporary, it is potentially temporary. It depends on how it goes with the first couple people to sign up. So the custom 12 weeks private lessons. So if you don't want the private, like the class, I also have private lessons that you can go with. Right now, this is something different from private lessons. Right now, the custom 12-week course is we would meet for a 30-minute planning session. All right. It would not be part of the 12 lessons that comes with it. It would just be like an intake session. We would meet, video call, we would chat about like, all right, this is going to be an online class basically, where I teach you one-on-one or with your two friends that you want to work with you. And we're going to focus on what you want this class to be. This is an opportunity for you and I to work together to design your dream class. All right. What skill or skills do you want to end this 12-week, this semester-long class having learned? All right. Do you want this to be a class about orchestration? Do you want it to be a class about film scoring? Do you want it to be about emotions in music, music psychology, storytelling with music, melody writing, and structuring with music? Basically, what online course do you wish you could have? And we're going to design it together. After the 30-minute planning session, I am going to put together a curriculum design. So I can give you an example. This is one of the things that I used to do in grad school. I was very blessed to have a tremendous mentor in the School of Education, and I got very good at curriculum design. This is a curriculum. It breaks down the terminal objectives, which is basically by the end of this class, the students, this is a curriculum I did for the Indie Film Music Contest and their class that they have available. By the end of this class, we'll identify terminal objectives, which are skills, however many skills, where you want to say, at the end of this class, this is what I can now do. So for this class, I had 4 terminal objectives. All right. Be able to set up safeguards against overanalysis of films while scoring them. Identify and sketch themes for important characters, locations, and literary ideas. Create a scene list to plan and track the use of their themes throughout the soundtrack, and use their sketches to compose a soundtrack that matches the flow of a film and that marks important hit points in each scene. All right, so these are the terminal objectives of what you can do after you've taken the Indie Film Music Contest's Intro to Film Scoring class. I will send you a curriculum just like this one, because then I designed the class to make sure that we spend those 12 lessons, and by the end of those 12 lessons, you can hit each of these goals. And so after the 30-minute video, I would design a curriculum, including assignments, lesson plans, all that kind of stuff. I will send that to you. You will give me feedback on what you think. All right, well, we don't really need a lesson about that, or I would like to have a lesson about this, whatever. We finalize the curriculum together, and then we find a time to meet weekly and have your class. All right, like I said, this is 12 one-hour lessons. You are free to invite up to 2 friends to participate in that lesson. You are free to to split the feedback on the assignments between them as well. But I will only provide feedback to 1 person per week just to keep it manageable, unless there are ways to upgrade. For every $250, I'll grade someone else's assignment. So if you and 2 friends join, if your 2 friends toss in another $250 kind of thing, then I will give feedback to all of you every single week on each of your assignments. But it will be run like a 12-week course, and that 12-week course will be designed based off what you want. Like I said, this is very experimental. I'm only going to do a couple to start off with. And then after those 2 I've started, I'm going to take this down and stop it so that no one else can purchase, so I can go through the full 12 weeks, figure out what I want to do, and if I think it was a good experience for me, if I feel like it was worth the time and effort that went into it, then yeah, I'll keep doing it. If not, I'm like one and done, like, all right, no worries, not for me. I'm just going to stick to private lessons. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so this is an experiment at the moment. If you would like just private lessons are also available, ranging from 90 to like a bundle of 6 for 500. All right, so that's my little advertisement for myself. 23, I don't have 2 friends. You don't have to do it with 2 friends. This can be a private lesson. I got to stop exiting out of this. And say the 2 friends are optional. All right. Private lessons. This can entirely just be 1 person. You can say up here, you can invite up to 2 friends. All right. So this is the kind of thing where if you want to just do this solo, go, and you can afford it, go for it. This can 100% be just a one-on-one course. added 2 friends because just sometimes it's fun to work with a class kind of setting and have people who are pushing you and working with you. If you whoever purchases it, they're the only one who gets feedback on their assignment, just because I put a lot of time into my feedback. Unless you, like I said, there are options to up the payment. If you add $100-$250 to it, like so it's $1,250 instead of $1,000, then yeah, I'll give feedback to 2 people every single week. And that's the price. The $250 is basically the price of 3 private lessons. So you're getting stretched out across 12 private lessons with just you and a couple friends. But Vincent has a good idea. If you want to try to put together a group on the Discord channel, go for it. I'd be happy to work with anybody who's interested in this. For 3 people, yes, $500 per person for 3 people is very fair. I agree. If you think about it, that's 12 private lessons. This is an entire semester long class. I think it's priced very competitively. I did my market research. It's very competitive. It's on the lower side. If you look at anyone else, not naming some names, but if you look at other YouTube composers who do private lessons, this is much more the affordable option. All right. But let's see here. That's all good and done. Let's get back to some feedback, shall we? Where is my list? Here we go. So wonderful job, Samuel. Had a lot of fun explaining that stuff. Kenneth is our last person on the list today. Kenneth says, I just want general feedback. Is there something that can make it sound better, melody or progression-wise? I tried to go somewhat dark, but I feel there is something missing. All right. This is my first composition. Awesome. I hope I can make it to the stream. Wonderful. Yes, Kenneth, let's listen to your music. And first off, I want to say this is awesome. Your first composition and you're submitting it for feedback. That is incredible. That kind of courage, that kind of willingness to put yourself out there is going to take you very, very far musically. All right. If you are willing to share your music and get feedback, you will grow significantly faster than someone who just writes and doesn't share. All right. Let's listen to it and see what we can come up with.
There's so much to love about Michigan and an easy way to love it. From over 3,000 miles of coastline and 13,000 miles of trails, there are countless places to explore.
As much as I love the message, I love Michigan, I am not going to be sharing any advertisements on this. Michigan is a very, very beautiful state, people. In fact, you know what? There is so much to love about Michigan. Y'all, I'm going to turn you on to Michigan real quick, all right? Everybody thinks of Michigan and thinks like Detroit. And I love Detroit. But we also have Pictured Rocks. This is in Michigan. All right? Sleeping Bear Dunes. This is in Michigan. All right? There is so much. Okay, and I can honestly keep going on. There's a lot of stuff in Michigan. Let's see. Grand Rapids, where I wrote my textbook. Is a beautiful city in Michigan. There's so much cool, beautiful stuff in Michigan. I cannot sing its praises enough. I love Michigan. I love my home state. And yeah, anywho. Hey, that's awesome. Monster Explorers. Let's see. Okay, music time, music time. This is the first piece. This is incredible. All right, so Kenneth, for a first piece, I want to share you a lot of stuff that you're doing really, really well. All right, this is a very instinctive piece. I can very much tell that you are at the beginning level of your kind of composing, and not because of the quality, but because of how instinctive it is. So generally speaking, there are 3 stages to learning. All right, stage 1 is instinct. All right, you just do whatever feels like it's good. You can think of it kind of like dancing, or like we'll use Bruce Lee's example of martial arts. Instinctive level. If you have no training as a fighter, you're just gonna do whatever comes instinctively. All right, you're gonna punch, you're gonna kick, you're gonna bite, you're gonna scratch, you're gonna do whatever just comes naturally to you. All right. Step 2 is training / learning, loss of instinct. All right. You start learning about theory, you start learning about techniques, and because of that, you lose that instinctive nature of just doing what comes naturally. You start thinking, and it stunts you, it slows you down because you're not listening to your instinct, you're trying to apply new levels. The 3rd level is a return to instinct. All right, but now what comes instinctively to you is different. What comes instinctively to you is improved by the theory and techniques you learned. Again, using the fighting analogy. All right, when you're fighting, it just comes naturally to you. You do whatever feels natural without thinking about it. Then you start training, all right, and you start getting a little stunted, all right. You try throwing a roundhouse kick, and because of it, you get punched in the face because the other guy's just fighting instinctively. It slows you down. You're out of rhythm. You're not listening to yourself very much. But then eventually, you internalize that technique so much that you stop overthinking it. You just start doing what comes instinctively to you. You start throwing the haymakers. You start throwing the roundhouse kicks. You start throwing the axe kicks, like whatever, the 1-inch punches, whatever comes. I don't know. You just start doing those, and they come instinctively to you. You don't have to think about it. But now, what comes instinctively is again a much wider palette of tools. So things you've done very, very well instinctively. You've used something called incremental complexity, which is the idea that you state very simple ideas that just repeat over and over again, but as they repeat, you add new layers. This is a fantastic tool. It keeps simple ideas from getting too boring too quickly. All right. You also had a very instinctive use of like panning and sound. All right. Like the guitar moving around to different sides of the stereo. If you weren't listening with the earbuds, you might have missed that. But the guitar moving back and forth a little bit, that was really, really cool. All right. So my tips for you on how you can improve, all right, is keeping in mind that you are a beginner. I'm not going to try throwing a bunch of theory at you. I'm not going to try throwing a bunch of like techniques at you. I'm going to give you one piece of advice, all right? Don't be afraid to use your registers, all right? So that little choir idea, the ba, ba, da, da, that repeats, that's awesome. But you could also try reinforcing that by moving up higher, adding instruments that play it higher, instruments that play it lower. You can move around, all right? So yeah, you have the idea of moving around across the stereo field, panning left and right. That is awesome. But don't be afraid to move your foreground, your main ideas around. We talked about this earlier in the stream. You have it in the choir up here for a little bit. Then maybe the next couple phrases, it comes down here in the basses. Still the choir, but they're singing an octave or two lower. And then it comes back to the tenors a little bit higher. Then it comes back to the female choir singers, and it's up here again. And then you start moving it on. It's a great way to take advantage of the different registers, the higher pitch sounds, the lower pitch sounds, and those in the middle. If you do that and you move your melody around, it's going to give your music so much more of a dynamic personality to it. Now, because I'm not trying to bog you down with a whole bunch of information, I'm just going to offer some resources. All right? As a true beginner, someone who's starting out, obviously, I'm going to plug the paid ones first. Private lessons can help you grow so ridiculously quickly. All right? And again, maybe you're interested in the custom 12-week course. All right? Check that out. If those are not your speed, all right, browse my bookshop. The textbook right here is geared towards people who are just starting. It's 36 chapters, and it takes you from learning how to read music all the way to arranging your original pieces for modern orchestra and ensembles. All right, this is a fantastic resource. It's got wonderful reviews. You can get physical copies on Amazon. And I will be releasing an updated version of it in a month or two that will have 50 new pages minimum, all updated examples and stuff. And everyone who would purchase a copy is going to get a free update. All right, I do not believe in charging twice. So anyone who's bought it from my website, I'm just going to automatically resend the download links once the update is up. So you will automatically get a new copy with all up the updates. You don't have to pay again. And anyone who bought it on Amazon, I unfortunately I don't have the resources to just send you a new updated physical copy, but I will be offering free ebook versions to everyone who bought those as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And then again, if you just don't, for whatever reason, can't purchase anything, I do have a free academy, free classes available on the website. If you do, please consider donating and supporting the creation of future classes. These are fantastic resources. They teach about music theory and harmony, melody writing, and 2 classes on orchestration and arranging. 100% free. Check them out. Fantastic resources. But this is a very, very good start, my friend. You have wonderful instincts. Keep trusting them. Keep working. I can't wait to see what kind of stuff you write in the future. All right. And with that, we're done. All right. That's the last of the pieces that were submitted. Thank you, everyone who submitted music this time around. Wonderful pieces. I had a lot of fun explaining a bunch of cool stuff. Thank you, 23. All right, don't forget a couple things. The next live stream will be for feedback will be June 27th. So if you are prepare a piece for them the week ahead of time. Keep an eye out for the announcement on YouTube and on Instagram. And you can submit a piece this week, and I will give free feedback on the 27th. All right, a couple of reminders of some cool deals going on for the next week. If you purchase either my textbook on The Musical Storyteller or my book on emotions and music from my website, you will also get my book on balancing the orchestra completely for free. Check out my free ebook, The Composer's Roadmap, a guide to teaching yourself music as well. That's just a bit of a passion project. It's a fun little thing I put together. So buy one of these, get this one completely free. Other deals, oh yes, and then private lessons. The temporary thing. This is an experiment, the custom 12-week course. All right, if there is a skill in music you want to learn, whether that's orchestration, whether it's film scoring, whether it's melody writing, whatever it is, I will work with you to create a semester-long course. 12 private lessons, 1 hour each. Each one will be recorded. Each one will have notes sent to you afterwards with the recording. The class will be designed fully before the first lesson. So we'll have a 30-minute lesson where we talk about your goals and what skill you want to have at the end of the class. I will then design a 12-week curriculum, send it to you ahead of time to get the okay. And once we have your okay on the class and thinking it looks good, it's exciting, you think it's worth your time and resources, that's when we start. All right. With this class, 12 lessons weekly. You are welcome to bring 2 friends with you to each lesson completely free of charge. However, if your friends want feedback on their assignments, there's an increase in price. All right. So you are the only one who gets feedback unless you guys up the price. It's $250 per friend who wants weekly feedback. All right. This is temporary potentially temporary. Because like I said, this is brand new. The first 2 classes, the first 2 people that sign up, I am closing it after that. I will do 2 12-week classes. Then I will take this off of my website. I will do the full 12 weeks and then decide whether I want to keep doing this. All right. So if you want a custom built class where it is a music class that teaches exactly what you want to learn and nothing more, nothing less, consider this. All right. Vincent had a good idea. So check out the Discord to see if there's people who want to go in on it with you, and we'll have a good time. All right. Check it out. That brings me, I think that's all of the announcements. But thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you all in the next live stream. All right. Bye for now.